Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a Reactor Sydney live stream. My name is Nadia. I work for the Reactor here in Sydney. Just a couple of things before we get started. The session will be recorded and shared with you, and there's also a Q&A box where you can leave your questions for Faisal, who will be answering them at the end. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Faisal, who will be running the session for us this evening. Thanks, Faisal.
Thank you so much, Nadia, and thank you so much, Sydney Reactor, for giving me another opportunity to speak on this platform. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or wherever you guys are. Stay safe. Today, we are going to talk about Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. I would not say Finance and Operations, sorry, Finance and Supply Chain Management, integration with Azure Ecosystem. So, onto this picture, onto the right-hand side, you can see here, we have in the middle, we have finance and operations, and onto the top, we can see its Logic app sitting over on the top. There are so many other apps and other platforms sitting across the finance and operations. A few of them: Power Platform, Flow, Power BI, OData, and Data Warehouse, and SQL, and so forth. But today's talk, we are just going to focus a little bit on the Azure ecosystem, how finance and operations is integrating with ecosystem seamlessly. A little bit background about myself. My name is Faisal Fareed. I'm a Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Supply Chain Technical Architect. These are my contact information, my email, my LinkedIn profile, my Twitter. I do write blogs about all the new cutting edge technologies, and there is a YouTube channel where you can join or watch all my videos, seminar sessions, which I have been doing across the globe nowadays. I have more than 12 years of experience in AX and Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations here. Whenever I say Finance and Operations, it's just the finance and supply chain management, but it's easy on my tongue to say F&O. I'm a technical guy. I do a lot of development. I have been involved into development more than 12 years, have been doing a lot of integrations nowadays and involved into the architecture designs and reporting stuff. I'm also the founder of ANZ Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations team, and I'm also the leader of this group. This is the group where I have been running this group for specifically to capture all the people of finance and operations background on a one platform or within ANZ region, Australia and New Zealand region. There is no limitation of non-ANZ regions cannot join this particular user group. You are feel free to follow my group onto LinkedIn. I'm also the user group leader or a chapter leader for Dynamics 365 and Power Platform for Pakistan. We started this group around 3 or 4 months ago, so you can also follow me on that group. Okay, so that was all about myself. Now, the real topic, the integration patterns, how we integrate and what are the patterns do exist into F&O. We have synchronous and asynchronous patterns. Regardless of finance and operations of any platforms, these are the common terminologies which we use many a times for different aspects. Synchronous, asynchronous patterns. Synchronous pattern, what we need to understand first is we send the request and then we will wait for the response. So it's like a block. Whereas asynchronous patterns, we send the request and we will not wait for the response. We can do some other work. So that's sort of asynchronous patterns. So that's a very generic idea for synchronous and asynchronous patterns. Now, when we talk about finance and operations, we have different type of frameworks available within finance and operations. One of them is called OData. We will see a little bit more about this OData, how it works. And we also have the custom web services. I put intentionally this custom web services under synchronous part here. But what we are going to do today is we are going to use custom web services for asynchronous pattern too. And how it is going to work, I'll show you in a demonstration shortly. Whereas, as you see on the right-hand side, we have batch data APIs. These are the inbuilt standard APIs from finance and operations, which you can leverage to perform all your asynchronous patterns. These are designed to handle large volume of data import and exports, and this can be done through data packages. But that is not the topic of today. What we are going to focus today is about custom web services, how we can use custom web services with Logic Apps, which is one of the services from Azure. And then what we are going to achieve is asynchronous pattern. With this one, first of all, we need to, as a normal process, whenever we start any sort of implementation or a requirement gathering, we have to get the proper business requirements. What is the proper business requirement for whatever the solution we are going to implement? Either it's a synchronous or asynchronous. You want a real-time data, you want an overnight data, what would be the volume of the data? So these are the few questions which you need to ask to your client or a customer when you will be designing all your integration designs or patterns. So the first point is there a business requirement for a real-time integration? If you say your answer is no, you have to tick mark, okay, I don't need dual write. If you don't need real-time integration, you do not need to configure dual write at all. What sort of data? Do you need to have your data out of finance and operations and you want to have that same data into your CDS or third-party applications? If we are talking about only CDS, if you want to have the same data into both environments, then you can think of, okay, I can possibly go with a data integrator. So to that sort of extent or knowledge you will have when you will designing your integration. And then you may ask, okay, what is the requirement for the peak data volume? How much data you will be integrating between the environments? If you think, okay, the data is too big, then think about, prior to design the solution, am I going to implement this solution through Logic App? Logic App is going to handle all these things or not? Or should I go with some other tools? Or should I go with the flow? Or should I go with only the business events from finance and operations? Then how quickly or how much time you will do this? You will need this data from finance and operations to the third party or maybe the CDS. So that's the frequency here. So continuation of, as this is one of the examples which I just highlighted here. This topic, we are not going to talk about dual write. I have spoken a lot on dual write, so you can watch all my YouTube channels and you can follow me on my blogs about all the dual write stuff. But the main point is here, synchronous and asynchronous. So the dual write always works with the synchronous integrations. You write a one record in FNO, it will write the same record back into CDS database or vice versa. So it will wait for that record to finish. So that's called it's synchronous. So you need real time. That's why it cannot be a batch process. Batch process means it cannot be a scheduled process. So the technology behind this is OData. These are the list of apps which can be used between finance and operations, and CDS. Whereas if we see the classic data integrators, it is the asynchronous, which means if you have sent a data from one system to another, you send the data across, and then you can perform another action. And this works onto the DIXF framework, which is a data import export framework within finance and operations. So your feedback definitely matters, but that's not the end of the presentation for today. Now I'm going to jump into the demonstration. So please feel free to provide your feedback at the end of the presentation. Now jumping into the experiment stuff. Apologies for that. That's happened when you're working from home. Okay, so this is the finance and operation system, and what we are seeing here, we are looking into all the customers here, and what I have designed a separate, a sort of a ISP solution or a small framework, so to how to get these custom web services working for asynchronous patterns. And why did I need this one? First of all, my requirement was, if I'll just draw a picture here, just to explain here. So I found this one quite interesting to explain. So if I'll just draw a picture, going to let's take maybe not a good idea. I'll just switch to my second monitor. Apologies, and then we'll show it from there. So how it works here, if we have this your logic app, and you have your data sitting into your logic app, and this is your third-party application. So third-party application could be anything. It may have their own database. Could be anything. It could have a SQL database. It could have an Oracle database. But regardless, we are not going into that topic. But we have a third-party application. Let's say we have a third-party application with the name Pay Global, which is another system which actually handles all your payroll stuff. So that's a system. It's sitting somewhere else. Now we want to integrate this one with finance and operations here, which is sitting over here. So this is my FNO. FNO also has their HR system module in it. It also has the customers in it. I want to have a direct, I could actually do a direct integration where I could have written a direct API in FNO REST API and let this system pay global to make a call to API and send data across directly to this FNO environment. But what was the scenario here? Pay global does not have this capability to make a call to any REST API. And then what we noticed, what we found, okay, let's use the logic app now in between. So logic app is actually making a call to this one. So it's this making a call to this one, and then it goes back, it sends data back to logic apps. So that's my first call, and that's my second. So it's a request, and that is actually second one is a response. So logic app is making a call here, getting all the required data from the third-party system, and then returning data back to logic apps. Logic app, within a logic app, what we are doing, we are formatting the data into JSON format. Logic app is sending this data back to FNO. That's the first step. We could also use another pattern here. We can also, so there are two ways here now to make a call to FNO. We can use we can use OData. We can use B, which is a custom service. So we can use A option, OData directly. We can use B option, custom services. Now what I'm gonna show here is using this option. The reason being, if you have around, you have pay global, you have the payroll information for, let's say, 5,000. You are getting 5,000 records from this system to logic app, and logic app is actually changing this data to the JSON format. So it also have 5,000 records in it. If you will use OData here, you will be making 5,000 calls to finance and operations, because OData only works one record at a time. So you will be sending 5,000 records back to finance and operations using OData. So this will have 5,000 records here, and you will be sending 5,000 calls back to finance and operations here. For each transaction you make from logic app to finance and operations, you have to pay a cost per transaction for logic apps. So the one drawback is it will be costly for your integration. So the first point which we are going to mention here is the cost, which is your logic app cost. So you have to pay for your each transaction. Second is, if you are creating one customer back into finance and operations, it has to wait for finance and operations to finish, because that is OData, and it will work for synchronous patterns. So you send one customer from a logic app to finance and operations, it will wait for finance and operations to finish. Sometimes if you are running huge volume of data import and processes in finance and operations, it can take more than 2 minutes. This is where logic app timed out, because logic app has a 2 minutes by default, and it got timed out. It doesn't send any response back to a logic app, and it stays here. But logic app thinks that request got failed because I didn't get any response back within my time threshold. Now, to overcome this issue, what I designed here as a custom web service. What I will be doing here, I will be sending all those 5,000 very global information, I would say customers or whatever the data would be. Let's take it a customer. So I'm sending 5,000 customers once as a JSON file to FNO. So what would happen now here if we just make a little bit a new diagram? So that is your logic app. This is your finance and operations. It make a one call, send 5,000 customers. Then logic app will not wait for these 5,000 customers to create it here. So that is my first step. Second step is FNO just send a one ID here with an acknowledgement. Okay, I have received my 5,000 customers from you. You please go ahead. If you want to do something else, please continue. And then as an acknowledgement, it will send an ID here. This ID, logic app will store this ID. Now, the third point, logic app will keep asking finance and operations. Okay, now tell me what's happened with my 5,000 customers. Are you done? Are you done? How many got passed? How many got failed? Was there any issue with the data? What happened there? So for each time, logic app will be using this particular ID to make a call back to FNO. So this ID is always a unique number, which was created back into FNO. So this way, what we have seen here, it is an asynchronous pattern. So logic app send the data back to FNO from here to here, and then logic app is not waiting for anything to finish from FNO. We have a one recurrence job in logic app, which is actually keep sending the same ID back to FNO from logic app and asking, okay, what's the response? What's the response? What's the result over there? That is the whole idea of this particular design, which I have created here. What I'm gonna switch back to my next screen again, and will show you how is it working into logic apps and finance and operations. So that's my finance and operations. And if I'll just search for a customer here with my name, I hope so I will find one. So that's the one which I did create it today as part of this demonstration preparation. But if we go back to the logic apps now, so integration, I have created two logic apps here just to show you how each of them is working. So logic apps here, it's a very simple one. Don't want to go into the two complexities here. To start with a simple process, many a times people ask, okay, where and how to start with logic apps, with finance and operations. So today is it's the best time to see, okay, what we can do on a very simple level. So I just used an HTTP request here, and that's the first step. Then I put a JSON schema here. Then I went to compose. This is where I'm just sending all the hard-coded data for now. So this HTTP request, whenever it's received, this can be integrated with a third party, which I'll just show you another complex example shortly. But to start with, whenever I will get any HTTP request, what the next step is, I'm just composing a hard-coded text right now. This is it's just a simple a Postman request. You can think of just a Postman request here with the hard-coded values. And what I'm calling here with this compose as an input, I'm making a call directly to a web service into finance and operations. So what this has here, this is my API. This is the URL of the environment, and that's the services. And there I have created a service group. And within a service group, I have created a service, and then I have created a create customers. How this works into the finance and operations world? Apologies in advance if you are not a AX or finance and operations developer, but this is how it looks like. The EDI, or you can say the coding, is quite similar to the Visual Studio looks like, but the way it works here, you can see what I have created as a different folders here, a service group. So the first point is a service group. Whenever you create a service group, you build your solution, it will be automatically deployed. Under a service group, you will have a service here, which is again this service sitting over here. The service name is dex underscore create customer service, and within a service, I have defined 3 different operations here. Now, if we go back to the logic app, so remember this one, this is a dex underscore create customer service over here. That's the same thing which I'm calling over here. The way I'm calling is, this is the environment URL. Now I'm calling an API. The API name is for the API is a services API, and then the name of the service group is this one. Within a group, I'm calling a service. Within a service, I'm calling a particular method here. Then I'm just passing all my application keys, authentication, secret key. I'm just passing all this information, and then I run it. But I know this will be failed. I kept it this way. So the reason being, I wanted to show you what would happen when this make a call back into finance and operations. So what I have done into finance and operations, I have created a separate form. So that is the whole framework or engine which I have designed here. Most of the times, what happens into these type of integrations, Logic App team says, I have sent you a data. A finance and operations team says, okay, I have got this data. Whatever you are claiming, I didn't receive this data. So there has always been a little bit of a conflict between the integration teams. What I have captured here, the moment you will make a call to finance and operations, it will create this identification number. That's the same ID which I was referring in this diagram. So you sent a Logic App, you sent a request to finance and operations. So this 5,000 customers, which I was giving as an example here, what you can do, you can put all your 5,000 customers as an input here, as a one array here. So the customer request, you can, right now I have only one customer here, but you can have an array of 5,000, 10,000. So automatically this will make a call to finance and operations. And you can see I'm passing this as a JSON format. So once it hits the finance and operations, it created a GUID here. So this is always a unique identifier. So that is the one-stop form here. You get everything. It gives you a status. Okay, that got failed. So don't worry about all the rest of the columns here. Type, integration ID, export date, and journal batch number, because that is a part of the other frameworks where I have been importing all the journals from Logic App into finance and operations. So whenever it creates an hour journal, payroll journal, expense journal, so it gives you a batch journal number also. So it also, we are defining the different types here, which could be customers, vendors, workers, whatever the journals would be. So it's just the identifier here. What is the type of the integration is here? But back to the actual point here, we are getting an identification number here. So if you see the payload for this one, that is the payload which finance and operations has retrieved. So that is the same payload which we send from logic apps. So many a times you will not, I would not say many a times, every time, most of the times, like you will not have this hard-coded input here. You will have some data coming from any third-party application. You will be just sending this data back to finance and operations. You will not be holding that data as a hard-coded into logic app, because logic app is just the intermediate thing. So this is how I captured all the data here, and that's the response. So whenever I create a customer, you can see this is failed here. It didn't complete. So customer want to understand, okay, why did it get failed? So I'm just showing, okay, this is a response. That's a failed customer. If there was any success customer, it could have been here into this particular array. If that is a failed one, that is a customer account that was trying to create it here, and the value, whatever you passing for the customer group, is not found, because that is not the correct customer group. You have to specify the proper customer group here. Then you have to specify this statistics group here. That is not correct here. So similar, so it gives you all the error messaging here. Now, if we go back, so that is the idea of the custom services. So I have created a custom service in finance and operations. I deployed that service very easy. Whenever you build the solution, it automatically gets deployed. And then you just make a call to that custom web service here, based on to your input. So I'm just making a call here. If you go back to the designer, HTTP, and that is my service here. It's that easy. So also what we have done here is I'm just taking you to the batch jobs. So asynchronous process, it will run into a batch job. So this way you will have more visibility what has happened within a batch job too. So that batch job started this way, and then it completed, and then the identification number is this one. This is which you can always use. Now, if we do the same exercise with Postman, many a times, like we do test all integration through Postman. Very easy process here. Using the same way, we can send. This is just the authentication. Then I'm just creating a customer here. All I'm just doing, I'm sending the customers the hard-coded data. I'm sending the hard-coded data here. Whatever I was sending from my logic app, I'm just sending the same here. What I'm getting here is the unique identifier here. So that is another way of testing the logic, my complete logic through Postman. So I'm getting this ID. So that is the ID which I'm just taking you back to my diagram. I'm sending, rather than logic app, you can use Postman just for your testing purpose. You are sending your data for FNO. FNO is actually returning you an ID as a step 2. So that's the ID you got it here. You copy, and then I want to see the status of my request. So this is another call. I will say, okay, that's actually what is the status of call. So 0 is mean it's sorry, 1 is mean failed, and 2, it means successful. So that got failed here because these numbers I just have defined for my own purpose. So for me, 1 is failed and 2 is successful. And you can use the same number again to get the output. What was the output? So you will see it's gonna give you an empty, which is 1 here, which is an empty array coming back here. So these are the 3 steps which we have used to get the asynchronous pattern working for logic apps and finance and operations. Now, if I'll take you to another logic app here, which is a synchronous integration. It's a simple stuff. Again, a request, whenever a request is received, I'm just creating a record directly into finance and operations. I'm using OData. I'm directly connecting to using a connector for finance and operations. I'm making a call to my environment here. I'm just calling a data entity name here and passing all the required information, currency and this, all the required information, organization name. And the moment I just make it, I will just say, I want to see 3 and 3, let's say, and then save it, run it. So that is you see, I can only send 1 record at a time. So that is got failed here. So what it's saying is the customer is already exist, which is fine because I have this customer already created here. What I'm gonna do here, I'm just put a 1 here and save it and run it. So this record already exists, which I just have created prior to this demonstration, which was this one US and FF0. So it's already exists there. So the same account. Then I just have to go. I will just go back here, and what I'll do, I'll just save this one. So that is how you are making a call 1 record at a time. So think about if you have 5,000 records, you can definitely use another type of a connector here, which is the list of all the records, but you have to loop and you have to make that much of a calls through a loop. For 1 record, go and write down in FNO, second record, go and write down in FNO, third, and so forth. Whereas with the other design which we have implemented here using the custom web services, it gives you a more flexibility. It gives you robust performance here. So that's all which I wanted to show you today. I will open the floor for any questions. If you have any questions, I'll just check with Nadia. Nadia, have we got any questions here?
Hi, Faisal. No questions have come through at the moment. So we'll open the floor and just give people some time to ask questions if they need to. But I think in the meantime, I'll just do a very quick update on what's coming up at the reactor, and then I can check back in and see what we've got going on. Perfect. All right, I'm just sharing my screen with everybody. So thank you to those who have joined us today. If you want to see the upcoming events that we do have at the Reactor, you can follow and join our community on meetup.com/Microsoft Reactor Sydney. You can follow us on Twitter, and you can also find a lot of the content in the sessions that we run on YouTube as well. So this session will be up on YouTube. The link will be shared in the Meetup group. And if you've got any questions about the Reactor, or you're pretty keen to get involved as well, you can email us at reactorsid@microsoft.com, and one of us will get in touch with you. I've popped this link in the Q&A. If you do have any feedback, you can leave it at aka.ms/reactor/survey with the event code 12343. So next week we've got an event coming up. 10th of November called Transparency and Algorithmic Decision Making, Pulling Back the Curtains on AI, which will be a very interesting session, and that's going to be led by one of our regional directors, David Guide. And we also have a session around CI and CD and beyond with GitHub Action. So that's going to be led by Damien Brady, who is one of our cloud advocates for Microsoft. Faisal, I haven't seen any questions come through, but is there anything you would like to add?
Anna, thank you so much. Seems like it's all good.
Yep, you covered it all, and you covered it well. So thank you all. Yeah, thank you all for joining. These are the links again to join the community. You can also sign up for our monthly newsletter at aka.ms/reactor email sign up. So you'll be able to see all the events that we have running globally and not just from the Reactor here in Sydney. So thank you again for joining us, and thank you so much to Faisal for taking the time out to take us through everything today. And yeah, so, good night, good morning, or good afternoon to wherever you're tuning in from today, and we will speak to you all again soon. Have a great night. Bye for now.
Thank you.